At 8:54 a.m., we continue with the broadcast, and it's time now with the weekly edition with eThekwini Secure. Now, for many of us, we are aware of the fact that at this point in time, there is a rent boycott or a rates boycott in terms of withholding money out of city coffers because, for the simple reason, the city cannot be trusted with people's money. And this, we're talking about the eThekwini municipality, and this has a potential of putting the municipality under administration if it doesn't step up in terms of what it's supposed to do. But also at the same time, looking at many of us, we live in areas where we live in residential areas, and right across the road or right next to us, you've got industrial areas, you've got commercial areas as well. And the key issue is how does one actually bring the two together, particularly when it comes to a united front in terms of approaching some of these issues as ratepayers, because industrial, commercial areas, ratepayers, just like how we are on a residential or a domestic level. And this is the reason why we are talking with Imtiaz Syed, the chairperson of eThekwini Secure this morning. Imtiaz, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, Imtiaz, for the very reasons we are talking about, we know this whole rates boycott is taking place out in eThekwini, but also at the point, in many instances, we find that it is the residential ratepayers, for want of a better term, that are, obviously taking issues up. And there is a bigger picture here, because I mentioned right next door, you could have an industrial area, you could have a commercial area, and these are ratepayers as well. The key issue is to bring the two of them together.
Correctly so. You see, I think we've negated to actually understand the climate of what rates actually constitutes. So first and foremost, what we need to understand and be realistic about is that where you live is your residential area, and that's in fact where you vote. So in terms of council and how municipalities operate, you vote within your area, you vote for a councillor, they're supposed to represent you in all things necessitated in terms of your service delivery. And you can realistically only vote in the area by which you live, because you only have one vote. It's one man, one vote, right? Now, here's the issue that we found ourselves back in 2018, where we formed something called a business forum. Now, why did we go about this way? You see, the issue of activism is spearheading something that hasn't been done before, and the climate by which there is some for lack of a better word, some gaps, right? Now, when we look at business areas and industrial areas, for example, Brickfield Road, and like, for example, get Springfield Park and all of these different areas.
Yes, I think Imtiaz,
all of these different areas. It's important for us to understand that these business.
Well, Imtiaz Syed has frozen for some reason or the other. I'm sure it is load shedding. We're going to try and get hold of Imtiaz, and hopefully, possibly, we can do him on audio as well, because with all this load shedding, we know it is affecting the network quite badly. So, Imtiaz, you're back with us. Imtiaz, if you would prefer, I see you are freezing a bit.
Yes,
we could possibly do this on audio if you could switch off your camera if we are having problems with signal strength or bandwidth. But you can continue, please, Imtiaz.
Okay, so basically the understanding is that these commercial areas and industrial areas and these business districts don't have representation within council. And I think it's imperative and important for areas, and you don't have to do it in a large scale, go throughout the municipality and all of that. I'm saying, for example, Intersite Avenue, those businesses should actually have a meeting and say, how do we band together, form themselves into whatever it is they want to call themselves, a business forum or working committee or whatever it is, because all that the city really requires is an organized body to deal with in terms of your service delivery. Now, why are we going down this path? Remember, as we sit here and we progress in discussions and live in our residential properties, whether it's affluent, middle income, or in the indigent, we still find ourselves wanting in terms of jobs and these kinds of things. And if we don't start protecting our business areas and start inculcating an ideology of safer areas where we can do business and where we can operate, including the CBDs, central business district area, along your beaches, If we don't start making these things safe and environmentally friendly to attract customers, we are going to end up with a problem ultimately where all of these businesses are now going to start shunning themselves off to safer areas within closed estates and that kind of thing. This is the issue that we're speaking to. So businesses need to start mobilizing themselves, organizing themselves, even if it's four or five for now. Let's get together and say, okay, what is going on? We don't have parking outside. We don't have bylaws. Our bylaws are not being impacted on. There's open spaces that are being invaded. There's vagrancy in our area. Let's deal with those things because all we really consider right now is where we live. How about where we actually conduct our business, and how about where we actually provide jobs and create employment? And this is important and imperative that we start doing now.
Absolutely, Imtiaz. And I think, when one looks at service delivery issues in particular, it does affect all of us. I mean, like now we're in the middle of stage six load shedding as well. And many of these
Absolutely.
areas are actually, combined. If I look at myself where I live, I know the moment we without lights, the people in town are without lights at the same time as well. So we are faced with similar problems. We are faced with similar challenges. And this
Correct.
business forum that you speak of, together with residents associations or ratepayers associations coming together, absolutely important, very, very critical.
Correctly so. I mean, if you go into it, I mean, stage six load shedding at the moment. If you go into a business area and if they're load shedding between 8 and 10 and 2 to 4 in the afternoon, realistically speaking, you only really work 9 hours a day. So it's almost 40% of the day that's now wasted. Where do you get money from to pay those staff that actually come to work? Where do you now get that turnover to, in fact, pay your rates and do all of those things? So there needs to be a different model in terms of municipalities and how they load shed. We got to protect our industrial areas. We got to protect our economy, and we got to protect our businesses to say that you need to sustainably be able to viably operate within the ambits of whatever it is that we're facing, whether it's load shedding, whether it's water cuts, whether it's whatever it is that we're facing at this time. But it's important for this city to respect and understand the plight of businesses in our areas so that we can progress in a positive way and we can continue doing business in a normal space.
Yes, and also, when we are in a time of uncertainty where we don't know what is going to happen from one day to the next, and suddenly you get all these surprises that actually spring up on you, and you're not equipped or you're not prepared to actually address this issue, creates major issues, major problems, Imtiaz.
Correct. All of these little things, load shedding, water cuts, even access routes. I mean, you'd find that taxis and buses sometimes are stopped on the roads and all of that. We need to really understand the plight of the CEO or director of a company at the end of the month when he's sitting with all of those bills to pay and he hasn't made his bottom line. Ultimately, that's stressful and it's pressurizing. And this is the plight of the businesses that I speak to. So yes, there is the ratepayers, and the ratepayers, with all due respect to everybody, it's a movement that's there. It needs to be there. It has to happen. It creates that suggestive nature that yes, we are standing up and we want our rights. But we also need to look at the bigger picture in terms of saying that businesses in themselves have a great, great, great role to play when it comes to how the municipalities operate, in terms of the coffers, in terms of creating jobs for those urbanized individuals that come into the city for looking for work, and all of these things. And I think there needs to be priorities given to the city's businesses to ensure that they are kept safe and to ensure that they are functional and they have the tools that they need to be and remain functional.
Well, Imtiaz, as always, it's fascinating talking to you. And, this obviously has created now another area that we need to focus on. And I'm sure that those that are listening this morning, those that are viewing us this morning, a lot of food for thought in what we have been discussing in the last 10 minutes. But for now, we thank you. We appreciate your time. All the best to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Imtiaz Syed was us this morning, chairperson of eThekwini Secure, which brings us straight on to news time. News on the hour with Syed Jedward standing by.